And so now it's hard to guess who's in control of what.
Yeah.
You know, there was a major intelligence war going on. And then even after Reagan was shot, George the First essentially became president and stayed president.
Yeah. So this guy has been involved for a long time, I guess.
I fully believe that this guy was involved in many, if not the majority, of these black operations.
Yeah, yeah.
I really do.
Well, do you right off the top of your head? Do you remember when exactly he was head of CIA?
It was in the 70s.
70s, okay.
Do not remember the exact date, but I do know it was in the 70s.
Okay, yeah. And as you say, again the CIA, but do you tie this? I mean, are we talking about an organization working above and within a government? Do you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. There are intelligence organizations out there that we don't even know, that most people don't even know exist.
Yeah.
You have the CIA, but who knows how many branches of the CIA there is. I know there's two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But there may be more. And it's kind of the old adage, the right hand don't know what the left hand's doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the question that's came up many times is, you know, you're talking all this talk on interviews and TV and all this. Why are you still alive?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I am talking.
Yeah, I understand.
And the other reason is because of that war in the intelligence community, and they did split. So you have two warring factions out there inside the government's own intelligence communities. So you have one group that would essentially like to see me in a box, and another group that doesn't. So they're warring against each other, and people like me are right in the middle of it.
What do you, if we say it like this, what kind of are your hopes or your goals here? Is it to make this, you know, so public, I guess, so that we can, you know, finally, I guess, get access to records or something like this and get the truth of what actually has happened? Or do you have any other, you know, goal with this, so to speak?
You hit it right on the head, right there, my friend. My goal is to flatten my big Irish mouth until enough people listen, and I can get my day in front of the full United States Senate, and I will not stop until I get to stand in front of the full United Nations. And we can demand answers, demand the paperwork, demand that it stops.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I've said this before, it's one thing to take a consenting adult who you tell, this is what we'd like you to volunteer for. They weigh the pros and cons, they sign the paper, they volunteer. That's one thing. That's fine. It's something different to take a child, okay, and subject that child to unheard of torture to create what you want to create. You know, and when we watch Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, you know, that movie don't come close to real life.
Amazing. This seems to be a recurring theme also. I mean, that these kinds of things run within the family, either if the father is connected through, you know, the military branches, or I guess in this agencies like CIA or so forth. But I mean, in regards to that, do you know anything, you know, more about your father? Do you think that he could be at some point under the same, I guess, mind control or influence as you were at some, you know, points?
I can't honestly say if he was influenced by mind control, but I believe I can say with 90% conviction that he didn't have a choice in the matter.
And why is that?
I remember when I was 14, one of the most vivid memories I have, see, I was born and raised on a farm, and we were a working farm, which meant that we raised animals and crops, and we sold the crops to grocery stores and, that kind of thing. It was a cash farm.
Mm.
And it was in late spring, and we had a tractor that went down, and I had it in the front of the farm working on the tractor, and we lived about 3/4 of a mile up a dirt road off the main road in a valley. I have to admit, it was a gorgeous farm. And I'm working on the tractor, and I can sense the vehicle coming up the road long before I hear it. And every alarm bell that I had started going off. And this guy pulls up in a van and gets out, and I instantly knew who it was, even though I had no knowledge of ever seeing this guy before. And it was my dad's CIA buddy. And Dad comes down, and they're doing the handshake and, pats on the back and all this and that. And the guy looks at my dad and says, "We need to go talk." So they went to talk, and about 20 minutes later, this guy comes down, gets in his van, and speeds off. And my dad, you don't speak to him for the rest of the day. He's in that bad of a mood. And 3 days later, I'm gone. I'm gone again. And I'm gone. The next memory I have, normal memory I have, is at almost 18 years old. So I think that that's when he came in and said, "We're taking him back," et cetera, and Dad didn't agree with it, but as I said, I don't think he had a choice.
Okay. Very, very sad, very scary also, obviously, but, we have about, 4 minutes left here in this segment, and we have got to a lot of interesting stuff that I do, wanted to get to today, but I have a few more kind of things that you briefly mentioned in the video interview also, and this of course ties in with again, I guess we could go back to the underground bases scenario and all of this stuff, and kind of, if we can connect this with, have you any kind of information regarding, aliens or invasion or off-planet? You mentioned Mars briefly. Would you like to elaborate a little more on this? What's the connection here?
The only thing I can say about Mars is there's something about Mars that just scares the living bejeebies out of some of us. It's hard to explain. One of the memories I have is being the pilot of a craft, and we're a 3-man crew, and it ain't no airplane and it ain't no jet. I know that. And we crash, and it ain't on Earth. But there's just something about the planet Mars that there's several of us that, as one of the people that I'm involved with who was in these operations as well, as she has said many times, Mars is waking up. That there are machines underground, and there are beings in like